Sometimes, and quite frequently, projects are expected for a long time and even forever. We're going to embark on expanding into India, and there's no reason why we think it would end in 5 years or 10 years or 20. We're there, we just anticipate indefinite. If you were going to make a spreadsheet or do an analysis that included every year, if it goes forever, you can't do that. But suppose you came up with 50 years, you might not necessarily want to have 50 columns in your analysis. It'd be difficult, it'd be impossible when you have lots and lots of years, if not infinite years. So what we widely see, and this is a really important concept, it's widely used in practice, and that's why it gets introduced in Finance 301, is we often introduce a terminal value. And so what the terminal value is, it's the after-tax value of a project at a particular point in time, and we can include it. And what's nice is it reflects all subsequent relevant cash flows. So suppose we have a project that's going to last for 50 years. That's our, we expect it to last for 50 years. Well, what would often happen is analysts might say, okay, let's look, really carefully at time 0, at time 1, at time 2, at time 3. And now you get out to time 4 and time 5 and time 6, and they're thinking, wow, we're really starting to make a lot of projections. And so what'll often happen is for years 4 all the way through the end of the project, which I think I said was 50 years, for all of these, make some basic assumptions, some kind of constant growth rate or something like that is often incorporated, so they can simplify, what those cash flows are, discount them back here to time 3, and come up with a terminal value. So the value of the particular project that I put in yellow down at the bottom at this case would be worth something at time 3. And why is that? Because of everything that's expected to happen in times 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way out to 50. And what's really nice is we can use this one value as of time 3 instead of these values. I think it's 47 values between 4 and time 50, because as we know, if we get the present value of all of these as of this point in time, they're going to have the same effect on value. Now, let's say we have a terminal value at time 3. We would also include all the other elements, the operating cash flow, the change in net working capital, capital spending, anything else that's relevant for time 3 we would include. And then terminal value captures everything from 4 through 50. So that's the basic idea of terminal value. Like I said, they are widely used in practice. And we have the tools that if we wanted to compute and impose some assumptions, we could compute the terminal values. That's something that gets done a lot in subsequent classes, Finance 302 in particular. Finance 401 does some of that as well. But in this class, we're just going to be given after-tax terminal values. It's important to introduce them, and even though we have the tools where we can impose some assumptions and come up with the terminal values, the focus of the class is on this section is on how to use them. And so again, terminal values, assume they're all after tax. They should be explicitly noted, but if it's not, all terminal values are after tax. Let's take a look at an example that involves terminal value. So we have a company, Dennison Clothing, and they're looking to do a 25-year project where the project is to launch a line of t-shirts based on funny viral videos. So there's a grumpy cat, or there's someone who falls on their face, or something happens to them and everybody thinks it's hysterical. They're going to sell t-shirts with quotes or images about this. In 2 years, the after-tax terminal value of the project would be $5 million. So what does that mean? That means that if we took a time machine out 2 years and we looked at then the future of the project, so it would be 3 years from now, 4, 5, all the way up to 25 years from now, figured out what those cash flows were expected to be and discounted them back to 2 years from today, we would see that the project is worth $5 million. In year 2, they expect operating cash flows of $1 million. Cash flow effects from the change in net working capital of negative $300,000. There's no capital spending, and as we've mentioned, the terminal value of $5 million. So the question is, what would be the relevant cash flows that would go into our analysis for year 2 So remember, you just add up operating cash flow plus cash flow effects from change in net working capital plus cash flow from capital spending plus terminal value. And you do that and you get cash flow that we'd use in our analysis in year 2 of 5.7 million. Years 3 through 25 would be 0. And this is why I think terminal value is such a powerful tool. Is here you're including a $5 million cash flow in year 2 that does not happen. You're including 0 for years 3 to 25, so you're excluding cash flows that really do happen. So you're including something imaginary, excluding something real, and we can do that because the present value of the real things that are happening is the same as getting $5 million in 2 years. So it's the power of time value of money coming into play. Year 0 and 1, you just figure out what each of those items, the value of the amount for each of those items would be, do some addition to get the cash flows in year 0 and 1, and now you've got NPV that you can figure out from C0, C1, and C2, and that's very, very, very manageable.